Okay, hello. Welcome again to all of our grade subscribers. My name is Greg. Today, I'm going to be doing a webinar on the listening test. Now, if this is the first time you've watched one of these webinars, I've been an English teacher for the last 15 years. Most of that time I spent in Korea, but I've been back here in my home country, which is New Zealand, for the last 2 years. A lot of the time I've been here in New Zealand, I've been working for the grade site. So this is one of many webinars that I've made since the beginning of the lockdown period, which is now ended here in New Zealand. So I hope wherever you're watching that you're very safe. Luckily, things are starting to get back for normal for us here in New Zealand, but I'm still going to keep making these webinars for you. So as I mentioned, today's focus is going to be on the listening test. This is actually the second time that I've made a series of videos of webinars that are based on the grade practice listening tests. So you can watch those old ones again. Essentially, I'm going to run through the same format for these webinars. So today's one, we're going to look at the first listening section. So I'm going to take you across to the grade site now. Now, you're probably watching from the grade site, or if you are watching this live, you will be. So if you have any questions while you're watching, click on the chat button, and I do have my phone next to me. So if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer them for you live. Otherwise, you can always ask via the Facebook page or post a message on the grade site as well. So let's go across now to the grade site. Okay, so hopefully you can see the grade dashboard. So to practice listening, just scroll down to the bottom. You can see all the different practice tests. Now, again, I want to emphasize this is a practice test. This is not an authentic IELTS test, but it has been designed to replicate what you might expect to encounter on test day. So I can see listening. I'm just going to click on tests. Now, the previous one that I made webinars for was this one here. Different sections, including skydiving, complaints, and bridges. We're going to look at some different sections in this practice one. Now you may have done this before. If that is the case, then hopefully I can shed some more light on any difficulties that you had. But let's click begin. Now, I just always want to make this distinction between the listening test and the reading test. When you do the listening test, usually the tracks will run for about 25 to 30 minutes. After you finish listening, you have an extra 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer paper, right? So this means in those 10 minutes after you listen, You can check your spelling, just get everything in order, you know. So, but in the reading test, you have 60 minutes, and within those 60 minutes, you need to complete the answer paper as well. So it's always important to make that distinction. I've heard some sad stories about students who got confused between those instructions. So the listening test, you always get the extra 10 minutes after you listen to transfer your answers from the question paper to your answer paper. So for today's practice, we're going to practice section 1. Now, section 1 is usually some sort of general English. So, and you will hear a little preview. So I'm going to press start. Now, but what you should also do on test day with all of the sections, and I know you don't have much time, so as I practice with you today, we're not going to imagine that we're on test day. I'm going to take more time and show you how I would make predictions. So we're told that we have to complete the blanks using no more than 3 words. Now the first one is first name Danny and then surname. So surname, a synonym for surname, we might hear something like family name, right? So now, often the surnames used on the IELTS test will be of more British origin. So you might hear names like Smith or Jones. Jones is Welsh, but anyway, so sort of common names that you might hear in Britain or America. However, occasionally you're going to hear names from all different backgrounds. So don't just expect to hear a British sounding or an English sounding surname. So we're not really sure. It could be anything. But with names, you'll often be asked to dictate the answer. So the speaker will often spell out the letters. So you can expect to hear that, I would say. The next prediction, age. So obviously this must be some sort of process where one person is giving information about themselves to another. You might even start thinking about what situation this could be. So, but anyway, so we know that one of the speakers, and it's always a dialogue in listening section 1, so 2 speakers, there must be a question about the age. So then you start imagining what sort of question you might hear. So it might be, how old are you? Or what is your age? And obviously the age is going to be a number. Telephone numbers. So it really depends on which part of the world. So it could be a mobile number, it could be a landline number, but obviously we're going to be dictating some numbers for a telephone number. The address. And I know this may sound simple, but it's always important to just predict what sort of information you're going to hear. So for an address, we're probably going to hear some numbers and then the name of the road. Again, I would imagine that the names of proper nouns, whether it's the name of a road, a town or a city or a person's name, often they are dictated to us. So number 5. So now we see that there must be a question about experience. So to me, this sounds like it could be possibly a job interview or somebody ringing up about the possibility of a job, because when it says experience, it's talking about how long this person worked at O'Reilly's Bar and Grill, right? So when it says years, well, obviously we're going to hear a number. So already we're starting to imagine what sort of listening we're going to hear. Other languages. So perhaps, yeah, this does sound more and more like a job interview. So do you speak any other languages? So then we're going to hear an adjective. So names of languages are usually like the adjective for the country. So I speak English, right? So other names of languages, Japanese, Chinese, or Mandarin perhaps, French, German, right? So the names of languages are given as the adjectives in most cases of the country. Okay, so qualifications. So you can take hints from the grammar which is given, right? So this must be a job interview because now this person is talking about qualifications or is being asked about qualifications. Now, what I mean by grammar is we have the indefinite article a. So we know that the next sound must be a consonant sound. So t, d, right? So some kind of course, but we know that the next sound after is going to be a consonant sound. So that'll help us when we're confirming answers, because we know that the next word cannot start with a vowel, right? So question 8, the hourly wage. Now, again, we can't really guess this, but we can make a prediction. So not many people get paid hundreds of dollars an hour. Very, very few get paid thousands of dollars an hour. So this is what we know, what we call a ballpark figure, right? So an average hourly wage in a country like New Zealand or Australia, I would imagine something like $20 or $30 an hour, perhaps. So that's called a ballpark figure. It just means a guess which is close to being correct, you know. So I'm not going to guess $100 an hour because that's more unlikely. Now we can see here that there's something about cocktail information. So this gives us more of a clue about the type of listening that we're going to hear. So perhaps this is a job interview for a bar or a restaurant. And maybe you're a fan of cocktails. It's asking for the ingredients in a tequila sunrise. Now, occasionally you might come across a question that you can answer without listening if you have certain general knowledge. I don't know what's in a tequila sunrise, so I will have to listen and find out the missing ingredient. And the last one here. Now, again, if you know a lot about cocktails, maybe you know what this cocktail is, but we can see from question 9 that tequila sunrise is the name of the cocktail. And here we're given all of the ingredients. The ingredients are vodka, sake, and pear liqueur. So what we're missing here is the name of the cocktail. But again, we know that the first sound in the name must be a consonant because we have the indefinite article a, which is always followed by a consonant sound. So at this point, I would like to go and start playing the track for you. And as we find the answers, I'm going to explain them to you and repeat anything if you have any questions. But yeah, we'll just go through and I'll break down the answers for you. Make sure the volume's high enough. Okay, I'm going to play it right from the beginning. So what you will hear is what you are likely to encounter on test day. So here is our narrator.
Practice test 5. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all of your answers on the test pages. Section 1, you will hear a man being interviewed for a job.
Okay, so here we are, here it is confirmed exactly what we're going to listen to, and the predictions were correct. We are going to listen to a man being interviewed for a job. So it's really important on test day to listen to the narrator. I know a lot of students keep making predictions because they know that the track hasn't begun, but you will get given some hints. So again, we are told that we're going to listen to a job interview or a man being interviewed for a job. So section 1 is always the dialogue. So it's going to be 2 people, the interviewer and the interviewee, or the owner of the bar or restaurant and the potential worker.
First, you have time to look at questions 1 to 8.
Now, the reason we're told to look at questions 1 to 8, in section 1, it's often broken into 2 parts. So we have a long dialogue, and often there's a little pause in the middle there somewhere. So we only have to answer questions 1 to 8 before we have that pause. Quite often it's questions 1 to 5, but this is practice, and it's just to get you used to having that little pause during the section. I'm just going to let this play through to give you an idea of how long you would actually have to prepare and to read the questions.
You will see that there is an example that...
So in most cases, with the authentic tests that I've listened to, usually it's about 30 seconds, which you have to read the questions first. So that's why it's really important to do lots of practice before you take your test, because you need to get familiar with that process and you need to practice trying to make predictions quickly. Let's continue on and listen to the example.
That has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Okay, so this is a special feature of section 1 of the listening test. They play a little portion or a little portion of the test is played for you just as a warm-up to get you used to the speakers. Now, in terms of the speakers, the types of accents that you're going to hear, the most common ones are American or British, but you may hear an Australian speaker, which is going to be the case today. And occasionally you might hear an accent like mine, which is a New Zealand accent, but the main ones that you're likely to hear are British and American. But it's always good to practice listening to Australian and New Zealand accents too.
Good afternoon. My name is Danny Nakamura. I've come for a job interview for the waiter vacancy.
Hello, Danny. It's nice to meet you. Please, have a seat.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's also really important to try and identify our speakers. So they both have Australian accents. The male is Danny Nakamura, and he is applying for the job, or he's interested in the job. Then we have a female speaker. Obviously, she must be the manager or the owner of the establishment or the place which is hiring. So now we're going to move on to the listening test proper. And what we're looking for again, we're looking for Danny's surname, and we've already heard that, but hopefully he's going to spell out his surname for us, because Nakamura could be a tricky one to spell.
Section 1. Good afternoon. My name is Danny Nakamura. I've come for a job interview for the waiter vacancy.
Hello, Danny. It's nice to meet you. Please, have a seat.
Thank you.
Is that Nakamura spelt Nakamora?
Okay, so the female speaker has attempted to spell Danny's name, and what she did is she said Nakamora. Now, you might think, hooray, I have the answer, but listen ahead, because this is something which happens quite often on the IELTS listening test.
That's close. It's spelled Nakamura.
So Danny corrected the other speaker. It's not OO, it is U. Now, this kind of correction is quite common in the listening test. So don't think that the first answer you hear is always the correct answer. It really is a test of your listening comprehension. You always have to stay switched on and always keep checking that you have the right answer. So again, the female speaker, she spelt Danny's surname Nakamora, and then Danny corrected her. Not two O's, it's U instead. So we have the information now. And in terms of the sequence, I am yet to come across an IELTS test where the answers, the questions were not in the same sequence as the listening. So now we can expect to get the information to answer question 2. And we want to know how old Danny is.
Sorry about that. And you're 22?
That's right.
Okay. And you're 22? That's right. So no mistake there. So we can put in 22. Now, you might want to be tricky and try and spell it out. I'm sure that would be accepted, but you would have to make sure that your spelling is correct. So when you are asked to provide numerals or numbers, when you're asked to provide a number as an answer, use the numerals, because then you don't have to worry about the spelling, right? So I know it says write no more than 3 words. Quite often the instructions will be given no more than 3 words / or numbers. But anyway, that is the answer. He is 22, and I don't have to worry about spelling if I use the numerals 2 and 2. Okay, now we're looking for Danny's telephone number. And absolutely, I'm going to use the numerals here. So we never spell out a telephone number.
And no problems, it's a difficult name to spell.
Can I please confirm your mobile number?
Yes, it's 0421 5689 5877.
Thank you. And do you live close?
Now, sounds pretty easy that you just have to write down a phone number, but this is the difficulty. In the IELTS test, the track is only played once. So unless Danny repeats it for us, we're only going to get a chance to hear that mobile number once. And I think yes, that is exactly, well, I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. So tell me if I was wrong. I was just dictating like anyone else would have to on test day. Those are the numbers that I heard. I hope that's correct. On test day, I wouldn't get a chance to listen again. So let's go on to question 4. Again, we know that with an address, we're very likely to have some numbers and then the name of a road.
By?
Yes, I live at 5 Old Farm Road.
Okay, so a lot of information coming very quickly, right? So 5 Old Farm. Now, as I mentioned, quite often with the names with people's family names or the names of places, quite often that'll be dictated for us. In this case, the name has not been dictated because old and farm are very common words in English. So the examiners decided that they don't need to be dictated, right? So what seems like quite a simple test, when you're under pressure and when you're trying to listen very carefully, it can be difficult. So we just had questions 2, 3, and 4 very close together. So you just really have to stay completely focused during the test. So Danny lives at as he said, yes, I live at 5 Old Farm Road, right? So let's move on to question 5. So here we're looking for experience. Again, you need to keep looking at your question paper to read the upcoming questions and listen at the same time. If you can, try and imagine what sort of question you might hear. But we know that we're going to be listening to some information about Danny's experience. Keyword we're going to be listening out for is O'Reilly's Bar and Grill.
It's only a 10-minute walk from here.
So Danny, do you have any experience in hospitality?
Okay, so here's one of the keywords that we can see on the question paper. So Danny, do you have any experience in hospitality? Hopefully he's going to tell us about his experience at O'Reilly's Bar and Grill.
Yes, I do. Here is a copy of my CV. As you can see, I worked as a waiter for 2 years at O'Reilly's Bar and Grill. Okay,
so again, I think it's entirely possible just to write 2. If I wanted to spell it out, I could. But the danger of that is what happens if I misspell it, right? That's going to be wrong, right? So maybe I just have a bad day and I forget to spell 2 correctly. But if I write the numeral, cannot be wrong. So let's move on to question 6. And here we're going to listen to what languages Danny can speak. Other languages. Obviously, he can speak English because we're listening to him speak English. What second languages or third languages can he speak?
Okay, that's good to know. Are there any times that you aren't available?
Well, my classes are from Monday to Thursday, but I finish by 3 p.m. every day. But that is during semester.
Are you on a break now?
Yes, classes don't recommence until next March.
Okay, that's good to know. We are open for lunch every day. So if one of our permanent waiters is sick, I may call you for relief.
That would be fantastic.
And I see that you can speak Japanese.
Okay, now the female speaker just said, and I see that you can speak Japanese. To me, this is a more difficult question because we're not actually hearing any of the keywords, other or languages, but associated, obviously we speak languages. So therefore we know, well, hopefully Danny's going to confirm that for us.
Correct.
Okay, and I see that you can speak Japanese. And then Danny confirms that. He says, correct. Now, be careful with your punctuation. Names of languages always start with a capital letter or uppercase letter, so Japanese. And let's move on. We just need to keep looking ahead. So next, we're going to look at Danny's qualifications.
Father is Japanese, so I spoke a lot of Japanese at home when I was growing up.
That's good because we get quite a lot of Japanese customers. Well, do you have any questions for me?
The job advertisement doesn't mention the hourly wage, so I was wondering what it is.
We usually pay our waiters $20 an hour. However, I can see you have completed a 2-day cocktail course.
Okay, there is one of Danny's qualifications, and it was a 2-day, which is hyphenated, cocktail course, right? So even though it looks like from the predictions that we made that this is going to be an easy section, you just have to really focus so hard. So some of the keywords were given, but not always. So we heard the word course, and but it wasn't actually Danny answering either. It was the female speaker making an observation from his CV. So she observed from his CV that he has completed a 2-day cocktail course. For any viewers who are not sure what a cocktail is, it's an alcoholic drink which is mixed and served in bars. Now, the hourly wage. Now, we've heard some information about that. So the manager said that usually waiters are paid $20, but that seems weird that that answer would be before. So maybe we're going to get some more information.
So I can pay you $22 an hour.
Okay, so now we find out that because Danny has completed the 2-day cocktail course, the manager is willing to pay him $22 an hour. So not quite a correction. She normally pays staff $20 an hour, but because Danny has finished that cocktail course, he's done a cocktail course, she's willing to pay him $22 an hour. So we're going to listen through and we're going to hear a little bit of a break, and then we're going to finish off questions 9 and 10.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 9 to 10.
So again, this is something you can expect on test day. Most listening sections are broken up into 2 parts, and you get a little bit more time to read the remaining questions. It may, in most cases, it's going to be sort of 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. But in this case, there's only 2 more questions that we need to read. So here we're going to be looking at ingredients and names for cocktails as we looked at before.
Now listen and answer questions 9 to 10. Great. I'm glad I completed that course.
Can you make a tequila sunrise?
Okay, so here is our first keyword. The manager has just asked Danny if he can make a tequila sunrise. Now, for some of you listening, this may be really all new information. Maybe you have no knowledge of cocktails. Now, this is a reflection of the actual test. You're going to get some listening sections, some reading sections, maybe even some sections or some questions on the speaking and writing tests about topics that you're not familiar with. That really just comes down to luck or bad luck, whichever way you want to look at it. However, you can still expect the kinds of words which are used to be words that are, quite regular in or quite frequently used. So if it's a word, if it's the name, if it's somebody's family name, it's usually going to be dictated for you. But hopefully this is going to be a word, even if you don't know a lot about cocktails, hopefully the answer here will be a word which you can recognize, hopefully. So let's listen. What are the ingredients for a tequila sunrise?
Most definitely grenadine, tequila, triple sec, and orange juice.
Okay, so hopefully you all heard that the final ingredient is orange juice. So don't be intimidated if you don't know anything about cocktails and you see all these strange words like grenadine, tequila, triple sec. Don't be intimidated because the actual answer was quite easy. It was orange juice. So yes, just try not to panic. I know it's hard on test day. This test is so important for you as a test taker, but you just need to try and relax and just focus on listening, because in that case, it was a pretty simple answer, orange juice. Now, again, we're looking for the final one, which is the name of a cocktail. If you do drink a lot of cocktails, maybe you know this one, but let's listen.
That was one of the first cocktails that I learned to make.
That's good because it's one of the most popular cocktails here. But don't forget the cherry cocktail. So what do you enjoy most about being a waiter?
Well, I'm a sociable person by nature, so I enjoy the interactions with the customers. I like helping them to enjoy their leisure time.
And I also see that you are a student.
Yes, I'm in my final year of a Bachelor of Engineering.
Okay, so how many hours a week are you looking at working?
Well, I know that the job advertisement states 15 hours a week, but I would also be available to work extra shifts, especially on the weekends. And I also wanted to mention that I can make some Japanese-style cocktails too.
Okay, so this is an interesting conversation. It started off with the manager asking Danny if he can make a tequila sunrise. Then they started talking about his studies, and now it's gone back to cocktails, right? So it really was requiring us to keep pace with the conversation. So Danny has now got back onto the topic of cocktails, and he's mentioned that he can make some Japanese style cocktails. So hopefully we're going to hear the name of one, and that'll be our answer for question 10.
Oh, we don't have any on the menu at the moment. What one would you recommend?
My personal favorite is the Japanese pear.
Okay, so hopefully you heard that, and I'm going to write this down if you didn't and explain. So I'm putting this in capitals because it's the name, it's a proper noun, the name of a cocktail. Now, the reason I think this is the answer is because sake is a traditional Japanese drink, and obviously pear is the name of the cocktail. So hopefully this is the answer, and then we can listen on and confirm.
I have never heard of that. What is in it?
Okay, so she hasn't heard of it, and she's asked what is in it, and hopefully we're going to hear those ingredients to confirm the answer.
Vodka, sake, and pear liqueur.
Okay, there we go. So probably the most difficult of all of the questions, 1 to 10, was question 10. Again, on test day, in each section in the listening test, you're going to have easier questions and harder questions. That's the nature of the test. If all of the questions were easy, then everyone would get a band 8 and band 9. So the questions are graded. Some of them are harder than others. So if you found question 10 more difficult, in my opinion, that's because it is. So on the grade site, we can check our answers. Now, sometimes the site might not accept variations of the answers. Now, I'm going to see what happens, because sometimes with the numerals, it might not accept the numerals. And I just want to show you what to do if that happens. So we're going to click on next, and then we're going to check our answers. So we're going to go to finish. Hopefully they're all right. Okay, so it's put down 3 and 5 as being wrong. So let's see what's happened, because I'm pretty sure that they were correct. Okay, so what it's asking us to do here is, now what you can do is you can disagree. So I would probably, I'll just make sure I've got the numbers right. So, oh, I made a mistake. I would be calling the wrong phone number. So I do not disagree with that. That's just incorrect. So sorry about that. I must have misheard the 9 for an 8. If the site is wrong, if you think I am correct, then and if you do this one, then you just click on disagree, and the site can be updated if it's checked again. So number 5. Okay, when it has in years in brackets, I would say perhaps 2 would also be acceptable, because already years is given as the, we already know what we're talking about, the measure of time. So if the site does say you're wrong, then what you can do is you can click on disagree, and that'll send a message to the site manager, and they can review the answers to see that there aren't other possibilities. Now, in this case, I think 2 is a possible answer, because in brackets, we already know the measure of time. Perhaps to be safer, I should have put 2 years as the actual answer. But anyway, this is a good example where I can show you what to do as you use the site. If you put in an answer which you think is correct, you can just flag it with disagree, and that'll send for a prompt to the site manager, who can then review to also update the site to include any new possibilities. Definitely in the authentic test, there may be some questions on the listening test where multiple answers or variations are possible. So the test, these practice tests can be updated to reflect that as well. So let's talk about the schedule ahead. I'm going to go back to the digital whiteboard and just clear all this for you. Okay, so on Sunday, we have our replay. Oops. Now, this replay is writing task 2. Now, all of the webinars are at 1:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. If you watch the replay this Sunday, 1:30 Indian Standard Time, there will be somebody from the site who can answer any questions that you might have as you're watching. We have our public webinar on Tuesday. I should put the actual date here. So that is June, what date is that? June the 14th. So then we have June the 16th. So that's Tuesday. And next Tuesday, it's going to be writing task 1. And it's going to be the academic test. And then finally, for grade subscribers, next Thursday, we are going to look at what have we got next Thursday? Reading. So that'll be academic, right? So, okay. So again, all of the webinars, whether they be replays, whether they be public webinars, all the ones for grade subscribers like yourself, they always start at the same time, 1:30 Indian Standard Time, which here in New Zealand is 8 p.m. So that's all for today. I hope it was good practice for you to go through another listening section with me. At any stage, if you have any questions, drop a line on the grade site or via the grade Facebook page. Stay safe. I hope wherever you are that you're well, and I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday. Take care.